a lot of people, they're trying to escape the matrix. I especially know a lot of like my, like entrepreneur friends. They're all trying to build their own startups, or they're trying to drop out of school because they want to escape the matrix. And I think during one point I was also like having that mindset where escaping the matrix means like financial freedom, time freedom, and things like that. But then once we access this spiritual body of work, and what I've realized is,
one time you kind of hit it in my face. You beat me up, right? And then I'm angry, and I was like, yeah, you intentionally hit me, right, for no reason. But very likely at the soul level, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. And that's all.
Ryan, when we talk about this concept of forgiveness, it's such a funny thing, right? Because if we think about it, when someone else does something wrong to you, you expect them to apologize or at least say sorry, even if it's a small thing. But then when you do something wrong, it feels like even though sometimes you do say sorry, especially for like the bigger things, like it's like there's some resistance or there's some kind of guilt that you feel of like, just saying sorry and just apologizing. Like, why is that the case with forgiveness?
No, that's a great question, Bosco. I think that first and foremost, the guilt, you say the guilt of like even saying forgiveness or saying sorry, it is actually like our ego presenting ourselves, right? Because we, since we were young, if you think about it, when we did something wrong, what happened? Our
Get
we get
punished.
parents yelled at us, right? We get punished, and so we naturally, our ego self would like try to protect us, right? It's a form of protection, and say, no, 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 I wasn't wrong. Let me explain myself, isn't it? And so with that, then that naturally like it forces us that it's like, no, I am not wrong, and so therefore I shouldn't be apologizing. And then so sometimes like you see people that say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Actually, that is a very bad habit in my opinion, because it actually normalizes sorry in a way that it just become a word. It doesn't really mean much, right? But then when it comes to a real situation that we should say sorry, we find excuses, right? We find explanation to not do that. And this is a protection that our ego try to protect ourselves to not being hurt again, and not being want to feel small again. So, so that is like kind of the fundamental reason why it's so hard to say sorry. And it's very easy to demand a sorry from someone else, though,
Yeah.
for the exact same reason, sort of.
Yeah. It's interesting how you mentioned how some people are so frequently saying sorry, but the other people is like their ego just doesn't want them to say sorry. Does it have to do with like genetics, or is this some kind of conditioning that they have?
No, definitely conditioning, right? And I had I mentored someone before where she basically every probably 10 minutes there will be some form of sorry coming out of her mouth, right? Oh, sorry, can I get this? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. It's like very little things, right? Also, sorry. I'm taking over. Can I bother you? But that form of sorry is a form of belittling ourselves, that we are not confident in asking for something. So everything that we ask, it feels like it's bothering someone, right? Or feeling that your contribution or your work, right, or what you're about to say is not as important as the other person, and therefore I must apologize to get the attention. And that is actually a form of lack of self-worth in some way.
Mm.
And in that case, right, we need to like kind of look at it and do some your through your own awareness. Do you um, notice that happen to you? And if that's the case, right, my recommendation first thing is to remove those sorry, the word sorry in your daily language. Then you make that forgiveness and that sorry, the word sorry, very sacred and meaningful when that happened, that actually require a forgiveness, require a apology.
Mm, yeah. I want to just delve deeper into this whole concept of forgiveness. Like when we don't forgive someone, a lot of negative energy gets trapped in us, right? Like we start holding grudges, we start wanting to like punish someone else. And on the surface level, it seems like, yes, we are trying to attack that other person, but then it also unconsciously conditions us to a certain extent. And can we just further, explore the impacts on us first?
Yeah. Because that's the first question. And I think that's more like a discussion. Do you think it is easier to forgive others or forgive yourself?
I mean, technically, that's a good question.
Right? There's no right or wrong, right? I think of it. It is like something for us to contemplate.
Mhm. I mean, you would know more about yourself because you know like your past history, so it might be easier to like figure out like what your actual nature is and how like see patterns with the things like under the conditioning that you have compared to someone else maybe because they don't like you don't really know much about them. But then
Yeah.
you can also argue, I guess, like you can put yourself in a third person perspective when looking at someone else's life, and it might be easier to like detach yourself from the emotions because a lot of times, like if you're thinking about yourself, then maybe more guilt comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we play it out, like, and we use a kind of extreme scenario to
Mm.
play this out, right? So let's us visualize, right? We are the victim in this case of a child abuse, right, or sexual abuse, right? The extreme cases. Knowing that the person who did this to us was intentional, as far as we know, right?
Yeah.
We, as helpless child, right, or helpless person that not like is we were still young, right? There, we don't have the power to fight back. We don't even maybe have the venue to fight back, right? And that happened to us, right? At that moment, right? And of course, right? Or like not even a moment, or maybe a long period of time, right? Because abuses behavior can last for years. So painful. It's so real, right? It's so much resentment, so much anger that sit within us, right? So much not understanding why that person have that evil like thought to do this to us, right? One would ask, how could I forgive such behavior, right?
Mm.
There is no logical reason, no legal reason why that person should be forgiven. So why do we talk about forgiveness, right? So, but now think of it. What does this whole situation have been doing it for ourselves, right? We have been living with fear, living with resentment, living with anger, living with hating the world, right? Dealing with darkness. And we couldn't get out of it because we have been wanting someone to say sorry, but also knowing that sorry actually doesn't release any of those anger and resentment and pain and hurt, isn't it? So, just looking at that fact, non forgiving doesn't lead to positive outcome. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because it's
Is
still
there
a
any way out without forgiveness? Right, is the question first of all, right? Without forgiving, even there is no way out of this darkness, no way out of this heaviness.
Mm. It's like even if you punish that person, like if, for example, that person goes to jail or they get like a death penalty, at the end of the day, it's like even though they're dead, like that's the extreme scenario. Like the impact has been still inside of you. Like you're still alive and you're still embodying this negative energy, and the fears are still in your head all the time. So we need
Yeah,
to somehow release it.
right. You might find justice, and that's okay, right? But the justice, most of the time, does not release the pain, right? The deep inside that pain and that resentment. The justice help, like I think, a bit. That's like, yeah, I find justice. That's good. It's a release. But if you never forgive that person, right, that entanglement, right, when you see that person again, or even just hear that person's name, what happened? The whole emotion, the whole negative emotion, the everything, the anger, the resentment come back up, right? And then it pulls us down again into a deep negative field, right? And I think that is the reason why I think forgiveness is such a powerful and important um, journey for us to forgive them, right? Forgive whoever that hurt us, and forgive ourselves for so harsh on ourselves to go through all this resentment, this anger, um, and this negative spiral. And the other thing I want to point out is that forgiveness doesn't mean that we become a pushover. It doesn't mean that you can be com- kumbaya and be happy with whatever that person that did us wrong, right? But it's about really forgiving the situation and forgiving self, and then from that forward, right? You don't have any obligation to have any interaction with the other person that harm us, right? That and and in of course, like in situation that we can remove ourselves from that environment, that great, right? But sometimes we might not even be in the power to remove ourselves from a environment. Um, and what do we do, right? And then how that forgiveness become a powerful tool to disengage uh, and protect your inner energy, like protect your inner emotion, right? Without like really overwhelming ourselves. So there is different technique on how to deal with that, which I can't really cover everything here. But right, but I really want to point out the power of forgiveness, right, and how we can use forgiveness as a tool, right, to regain our confidence and our true self, right, and remove that negative energy inside us and find clarity, from forgiveness.
Mm. One thing I've noticed a lot is that most of the time, a lot of the impact from being hurt by others, like we can't really see it consciously. Like it's a mechanism which is just playing out in our lives and we don't really notice it. Like for example, I know some of my friends who've gone through really traumatic events, like family events, and like being abused by their parents. And afterwards, they were really seeking for a intimate relationship. So then they fall into a really dependent relationship, and they themselves don't really see that. But in the long
Mhm.
run, you can see how that's problematic when you're not an independent being and you're too detached. I mean, you're too attached to someone. So how can we first gain this consciousness or gain this awareness to see whether or not something that you have right now is being affected by your past and is maybe something that you haven't forgiven yet?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and it happens so much, right? And this is why when we do not forgive, it kind of
Mm-hmm.
perpetuate to your adult life, right? And could be forever if we don't remove, right, or find that awareness to remove that. And but what is funny is that when you ask how do we start to aware if certain behavior that we have is because of some conditioning in the past, like or some emotional trap, or trauma that we haven't released. Um, as someone that really get to the essence of a solution, like what is the shortest way to get the biggest impact, I always say that is a quote from Bruce Lee. And I always try to find ways to do that because I'm such a lazy person, I guess, or someone that want a shortcut. um, I would say, like in my experience, it's not about contemplating and trying to find that root cause and see what's going on. Yes, sometimes it might be helpful for certain people. But I do find, and I tried that before too, but I find that the most easy, right, way to start doing that is like you take an inventory of your current situation and relationships and see if there are any relationships that drain your energy, right? That is something doesn't feel flow. It doesn't feel that is nurturing, right? So those relationship by itself is because there is something underneath that causing us to feel unease, right? So from that, then it's like, okay, but I don't want it. Like, so sometimes I don't know why, right? Or our actually sometimes our brain choose to block some of the trauma, right? That so it will be very hard to figure it out why, and therefore the effective way to do that, and then from that relationship or that actually present situation that you don't feel good about, right? And then we start doing a what I call a four phrases mantra, but it's actually not really a mantra. It's Hawaiian uh, technique called Oponopono, and it's a four phrases mantra just to release whatever situation that. But actually, that what it does is a self forgiveness. I forgive myself of feeling this way, of feeling this resentment, of feeling this relationship is not going anywhere, like whatever. So this four phrases is very simple. I call I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. And that's all. And you keep repeating this to yourself, not to anyone, to yourself. And then that is, if we do this every day, we start to, without trying too hard, use our mind to find the root cause. This itself will start to release and feel different. And I find that is almost like a shortcut way to forgive self and naturally forgive whatever that is in our past that sometimes we consciously aware or not aware because we sometimes we chose to block it.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a good point because I myself also fall into the trap of like when there's something uncomfortable, then you always try to seek the root cause of it. Like you always want to pinpoint exactly what is causing that problem, right? Because our logical mind wants that information.
Yeah, root
But
cause
then,
analysis.
yeah, and you just keep going backwards and backwards and backwards until you get there. But then, one thing I've realized is a lot of the times there may be things that you can't really find, and it's just more about the feelings and the intuition. So it's leaning back towards that emotional vibe rather than having to always logically like note down exactly why things are happening to you.
Yeah, and because our memory actually is very bad, and as we go down and try to find the root cause, actually is, I would say, a lot of the, even if we can find it, unless like unless you actually document everything since you were born, that
Mm,
every single things that happened in life. Otherwise, what when we go back in time to try to find the root cause, it is the story that we are creating in our head that we actually cannot. There is no way to confirm. Rather, it is a real fact, or is I have a memory breakdown. I don't know, right? And knowing that fact that is like it's like there is really maybe even we get to the root cause, but it's a story of our root cause. It might not be the fact. So,
yeah,
therefore, staying in the present is become a more in my own experience. It become a much more proactive way to stay into the present emotion, right? And I will deal with my present emotion, right? And I will forgive my present emotion.
yeah. I just heard just now when you were talking, like your dog was barking. Is he hungry or something? Or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He is like he never bark except when he needs food.
does he need food now?
He needs food now, and it's only like even it's not even like 10 o'clock. Like and his lunchtime is 11, so sometimes he's funny, but we forgive him all the time because like he's 17 and a half years old, so he get to forget like he actually become forgetful. He forgot that he ate. So yeah, we used to be quite disciplined with his diet. Now we kind of like okay, he really forgets, so that's okay. So sometimes he want to join the podcast, and I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's so cute.
It's like he has an opinion.
Mm, yeah. So going back to forgiveness, do we need understanding on someone else with forgiveness? Because currently, like what I do with like forgiveness is a lot of the times people are doing things unconsciously, even though they have like a good intention towards it. Like
Mhm.
what I see is like even though it may seem like a violent thing, maybe they're doing it out of ignorance or out of fear, or they're just being selfish, or they need some kind of love. So, do you believe that everyone who hurts other people are doing it with good intention? Because I mean, we all want these things.
Yeah. Um, this is a great question, and I would like to use these opportunities can go a bit deeper, right?
Mhm.
For the audience that like
Let's do
in
it.
this podcast, like we're not talking about service stuff, right? So we go deep.
Let's do it.
That's okay. Let's do it. Okay. So at the service level, and I think that is when I spoke about how reality works is an important foundation to answer your question, Bosco, because most of us, like actually all of us, until we realize something, right? All of us, we start out in a human journey as one reality scenario, right? And this one in this one reality scenario, when someone did something I feel intentionally harmful, right? Then of course it's intentional, right? That's and we need to accept that is the fact in this one reality, human experience. But now we have to look at also there is a additional reality beyond our physical reality, and that kind of make things interesting, right? Because when we start, if we go beyond our one life, one physical concept, where we are actually a continuity of soul coming in onto earth in a human physical form as one of our experience, then all of a sudden there is a overlay of a second reality, which is our soul reality, that sit on top of our physical avatar. So I kind of see ourselves, like in you and I talking, in what we're doing now is our physical avatar, where our soul, or I can say our higher self, right, our God, and what, like different culture, different religions, and different belief can have a different terms for it. But there is something beyond us, right? There's something beyond us that we as a, and I just use soul in this case, our soul together also have a collective agreement to, so that we say we on this earth in this lifetime will have this experience so that we can learn something about ourselves, right? So if you think about it, is that we, Ryan and Bosco, is an avatar of our soul, where our soul is the actually the real player that playing the game of this life called Earth, right? Or is this game called Earth? So as a soul, it could possibly, right? And I just pray this out. Let's say Bosco, one time you kind of hit it in my face, you beat me up, right? And then I angry. Then I was like, yeah, you intentionally hit me, right, for no reason. Then I'm angry. But very likely, at the soul level, right, our soul Ryan and the soul Bosco say, hey, we're gonna play an act in the Earth game. In this Earth game, I will hit you. Why? Because so that I, Ryan, right, as a avatar, can learn about my emotion, because that is one thing that I must overcome, that I must find peace within this anger. So just that's the script that our soul are written for each other. So you're gonna play this role, I'm gonna play this role. I'm gonna play the victim, you're gonna play the gangster, right? Let's just say that. In our Earth reality, it is intentional. I feel hurt, and I didn't know the soul is doing that. But when we step back and we see the bigger picture, when connecting our physical self and our bigger picture and our soul teaching and soul learning, then all of a sudden the things that happen to us, right, is might not be is intentional in the earth reality, but is scripted in the bigger sense. And so therefore, right, the answer is both. Right? So in only our physical form, that person can be intentionally did something to us, and maybe without kindness, right? But at the higher level, they might actually, we agree that is going to happen so that I can learn something. So that's very like it goes for quite deep, like to understand this dual reality and a dual dimension of how we need to experience life, right? But because of that, then we actually can see, and even now, let's say we forget our soul part, but then we can actually say, okay, if I know the soul can do something that I don't understand, right, but at least it's like everything that happened to me now is for me and it's not against me, right? And this is what I try to get to. A lot of like we can always like a lot of like people and guru and teachers always say that like you just need to know that if everything is for me, we can forgive easily or easier. But why is it for me? And that is why I need to give the context of how the universe work in order to have our help our mind to understand why certain things that is so negative is for me. Does that make sense?
Hmm. It was about having first this understanding and then acceptance of it. But
Correct. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we're thinking to someone who's like facing constant trauma, or they're still being super hurt even nowadays, even after the event, or if the event is prolonging itself, like it's happening, what can they do about it other than
Yeah.
accept it? Because like a lot of emotions are coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. And nowadays it's actually even more, right? Like all the emotion are coming up and coming back up. Uh, and what do we do, right? So, you know, ideally, if someone that's listening to this podcast, that they're in a relatively like good space, then that's good, right? Because now we already know. So when we go into a situation like this, we can remember that, oh, this is for me. And so I know I can try to accept, right, and forgive. But for people that are actually already in a situation, for especially like you say for a long time, it's very hard for them to have the capacity, right, to um, release, to even have the time or the energy to think about this. And then so what do we do is actually is people around them. What do I mean by that is that we often see someone and say, "Oh man, I feel so bad for them. I wish they can do something. I wish." And then we try to teach them, we try to talk to them, and then we get frustrated. Why can't they, change it? Why can't they see what I see? But because it's very hard, like, and it's like truly painful for them to feel like what is currently happening to them. But people around them can make a very, very good choice. Is right to hold space for them, right? And when I say hold space, and is to create environments, right, rather through meditation, and rather even through you do your own oponopono, the four phrases. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. When you continue to do that, your because you and that person maybe is very close, it's your good friend, or maybe even it's your family members. When you do that, your energy actually will also help them naturally, until one day you will notice, then they say, oh, there is some release, or like there is a somewhere in them start to open up. And then that's when we can start to say, hey, I have been doing that, would you interested in joining me, right? So it is really about lead by example. When we want to help someone, I think the best first step is we do what we think we want them to do, even though it might not happen to us. But it's almost like we are doing it for them, and we are doing it for ourselves.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because seeing them, we also feel the pain, right? So when we feel the pain and when we do that action, we transmute their pain inside us. You see, and then from that we actually able to lessen their burden, and then they will naturally feel better, and then at some point then you open up the door that you can support that person as well.
Mm. And diving deeper with these practices that we mentioned, like Hoponopono and meditation, like a lot of the times we like to listen to things, but then that goes into our conscious mind. But then it doesn't really get integrated into our body, which is the unconscious. And
Mm.
I guess I just wanted to find like the unconscious being like it's like a tunnel, right? Like the conscious is like the top of the tunnel. You can't really, I mean, you can see inside of it, but then for the unconscious, is like there's a tunnel cover, but then you don't know what's going on inside. And I think
Yeah,
with these practices that you mentioned, with like your Hoponopono, which is like the self hypnosis process, like listening to things repetitively, and also like meditation, it actually helps you integrate it from your mind into your body. Because a lot of the times with these painful experiences that we have, like they're expressed without us even knowing, right? Our mind can't even tolerate it, and it automatically just comes out. So then we need some kind of practice to put it into our body, right? It's like reprogramming our
yeah,
body rather than just stuffing words into our mind, because our mind can only take that much.
yeah. That is a very good point, Bosco. And I think the way I describe it is that, like, everything that you hear in this podcast, everything that I said, everything that Bosco said, we are like an information vending machine. We just send you information, right? But
Mhm.
it's not yet. It might be my wisdom, it may be Bosco wisdom that we embody it at some point, right? But when we share with you, you just get it from a vending machine. And one, you shouldn't like just accept and agree, right, with everything that we said until what Bosco is saying, right, is until you use this tool to experience it yourself. And when you experience it, then when the wisdom will born from within, and then it store into your like subconscious mind, right? And that become wisdom, right? So I, when you receive what we said, it's just a bunch of information, and when you use tools to integrate, and then something comes up from within with clarity, with a thing, right? And this clarity is always very nurturing. It's no fear. Is come from a place that feel very peaceful. Then that wisdom become yours. So yeah, so
Mm.
it's very very good point that I always tell people that um, don't treat anyone as a guru per se, because the guru is born from within. You are your own guru, but like all the teachers, like us, can support you to find your own wisdom, right? And the tool that we are sharing is also for you to experience that, oh yeah, this works for me, this doesn't, right? And it's okay, like I won't feel bad if something doesn't work for you, because everyone have different tools and have the different path. Like Buddha would say that there is, why Buddhism have so many scriptures, because there's 84,000 ways for you to get enlightenment, right? And there is 84,000 way, or like more than that, right, to get us to find our own wisdom, right? So all of us have to go through that embodiment to create that wisdom.
Yeah, just be the own scientist of your life.
Exactly, exactly. And I love that that is like scientists is amazing, right? They always try to um, debunk their own truth. And that's what we need to get into, especially in the world of AI. The answer comes so quickly, right? And so we have to debunk all the truth and use our wisdom, right? To and every debunk it become our wisdom, and then we use that wisdom to continue to seek more truth.
Mhm. Diving more into the unconscious side of things, like since we know there are things that are here, but then our eyes just can't tolerate it because in this physical form we're limited by so many capabilities. There's also another way to integrate it into our body, which is energy psychology. And Ryan, I remember you mentioned a concept called energetic bubbles, creating energetic bubbles around you. How
Yeah,
do you do that, and can you explain how it works?
yeah. So that again, like we go into deep end of our conversation, which I love. Uh, g- Good news is that I think that now 2025, the concept of the unseen is more widely known because of quantum, right? Quantum physics, and quantum mechanics, right, have proven, right, somewhat that in a way there is the unseen force that, and how our physical and the non-physical and the space works, kind of interconnectedly, right, and commingle with each other. And so therefore is more widely acceptable, which is like what is energy, right, and how energy works around us. The funny thing, like sometimes I was like, the funny thing is that if you go back to Buddhism, I wouldn't say Buddhism, but Buddhism is a religion, but I say Buddhist teaching, right? More like the way of being, and also like I Ching, the way of being, like Kabbalah, the way of being, like all those like is a concept that has been around for a long time, and all of them actually is talk about the energy side of things, which like I think nowadays people we call metaphysics, right? Metaphysics, like meta, basically is just the unseen part, the larger part of the non-physics part of things, which is very much part of us. Unfortunately, throughout time, not everyone have the benefits to get educated on the fundamental of I Ching or Kabbalah or like and a different modality, and therefore we have a very much watered down version of that understanding, and then it ends up, right, usually through our grandparents and our parents tell us somewhat they thought it was wisdom but without explanation, then the next generation think it was superstitious because we can't see. And at the same time, like the West and the science came up, right, and tried and really promote the understanding of the physicality, like how physics work, right, how biology work, and therefore we move away from the understanding of the energetic field and the non like part that we can't see, right. So we kind of lost that knowledge and connection. But I think with the help of technology and science, like slowly catching up on quantum, right, and sci-fi actually is a great way also to test our imagination. And sci-fi actually is dramatized, but have a lot of, I would say, truth in the cosmic, how the cosmic and the universe work, right? So with the new, like kind of like we kind of 2000 years, like someone figured out a lot of things but with a very old language that the modern people like us can't really understand, and then kind of go downward, and then now with like better understanding of quantum physics, right, and better understanding, and also our whole human consciousness is also rising, And that's just part of a natural evolution. So we come back to a place where we can start to understand and feel that, wait a minute, I actually can feel some energy. I actually can feel how frequency and vibration have an impact on me. And so, like my wife, she and us, actually, I also start helping now. I is on a we do singing bowl, right? Crystal singing bowl and sound healing, right? And sound is a vibration and frequency. It create a energy field to support us, and this energy is vibrate the same frequency as our organs, right? And that actually in Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, it also talks about each organ, right, is associated with different frequency and different color, right? We will see like parents would say that, oh, yeah, what color of food is good for what organs, right? Then we say what, but that all actually is part of the study, right? Color have frequencies. They have a different vibrations. Sound have different vibration and different frequency, and through all that, it helps, like we start to like understand, like, or remember, I would really say is remember, right, how to balance our physical body with our energetic frequency to be a whole complete self. If I think I like to use the iPhone example in the past, where if we only use our mind and our physical self, we are only using few basic apps on on the iPhone. And when your iPhone has so many actually hidden function that we rarely use. And as we open up to understanding and feeling and expand our holistic well being beyond the physical to the energetic field, that is when we're really using our iPhone fully, right? And there's a long way to go back, because I kind of need a context for everyone to go back to your question, Bosco, on so how do we create this energy, like good energy field, and that is actually, there's many different ways, honestly, right? But setting the intention is very important, since we talk about everything has energy, so including my words come out from my mouth, and our thought come out from our mind, that also carry a energy signature, right? And and that's a very simple test, and you can see that why do certain people that think always have a very positive worldview, are always happy, but that is because that negative, that positive thought, positive behavior create a reality around them that is also very positive. The reality that outside of us is a mirror of our inner thought, is our inner energetic field that project a reality in front of you. Even if we are in the exact same country or exact same company, why do some people, two two people, same country, have a very different experience? Even same household, you could like two siblings have a very different experience of their life, because how their energetic, like how their mind, like what's, or how their thought process, and that's all is part of how we create this energy field, right? So what I would actually always try to do when we, now that you're understanding the concept behind like how the energy field work, that using our mind, our and what we say, it create the right energy, then we can actually use our mind to visualize what are the energy field that you want to be surrounded you, right? To create that energy that align with how you want to be and become. Right? So the way I do it is I always try to connect with the element. What element? The nature, like the five elements, the fire. So I kind of all I kind of use the nature. It's like the sun, right? The trees, the soil, right? The land, right? All this actually is a energy. They also have their own energy, and I would actually just visualize that I can actually connect with the sun, and then I connect, bring the sun energy into my heart, and then from this I create a connection with this beautiful, pure, positive energy, and then connect with my heart. And then from that, I expand that energy field to, just say, a meter wide, right? Like at least it's a bubble that can cover, yourself. And then with that bubble, and then you set the intention that I just want to have this beautiful energy surrounded me for the whole day, right? And anything that is negative, please do not come into my bubble. Just by setting this intention is how we can start to, create our energy field, right? And anything that's negative cannot come in, right? But if it touch my bubble, I am happy to transmute the negative energy in to neutralize it, right? And then why does that intention helpful? That intention not only is not bouncing back the negative energy, but when they comes in, I transmute it. So you actually become the creator of a positive energy field everywhere you go. And that's kind of how I talk about energy field, and how, all of us can do that easily, and walking around in the public, at work, in the house, and go everywhere you go. You create this positive bubble around you and transmute everything's around you. So
Yeah.
it's a very long way to come back to the solution, but I hope this context will help.
Hmm. It definitely did. This energy field is so interesting because, like, a really funny story is like at night, I share the same room, like sleeping with my brother. So I sleep in like the bottom bunk, and then my brother's like on the top bunk. And
Uh-huh.
there was a night when I couldn't really sleep, and then I was like, well, why can I really sleep? And then I start thinking, because I was also studying human design, and my brother has um the generator, which has like a sacral defined. And for those who don't know human design, it just basically means this guy likes pumping out energy. He has like infinite creative force, and he continue
Yeah.
like being energetic. And on the other hand, I have the manifestor profile where my energy is limited and it doesn't regenerate a lot. And with this energy field, what I saw was that I really wanted to sleep, but then my brother was super active. But then because we were only like 1 meter or even less apart, then his energy, because he was like watching like YouTube on his phone, like his energy transferred to my own energy, which made me not be able to sleep. And I got really frustrated with that. So to
Yeah.
test it out, what I did was I told him to sleep on the other side. So like he moved to the other side, and then right after that, I just somehow felt my body like entirely lighter, and it was just so easy for me to fall asleep afterwards. And it's crazy how energy is
Ye-
so powerful, but then it's not really studied, because a
Yeah.
lot of the time it's really personal experience, or we have distinct,
Yeah.
unique blueprints, and that's why it's hard to universalize all these things, because we all experience different things.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why, like, we become our own scientists, and through our own experience, and then, like, in this type of channels, to share our experience is so important. It's not that we need everyone to feel the same way, but oftentimes, like, I kind of like call it, like, we finally come out of this spiritual closet, that from a point where we think everyone should have experienced the same thing, otherwise I'm weird, to no, everyone should have a different experience, and honor that experience and share with people, because somehow it might help other people. And it is like actually once we share, then when I start sharing my own energetic experience like what you did, Bosco, then people start to open up and like, oh yeah, I experienced that, but I thought I'm weird. It always happens. It's like, oh, I thought it was just me, so I ignore it. Like, no, that's just that it doesn't feel right, right? But like this is where we start to awaken and open up, is to honor every, like, even if the whole world only you experience that, is your experience and energy. That is how we can all better understand like what is metaphysics, what is energy, right? And it become and normalize this common language that we can that understand that we are all beyond physical, and energy play a big part of ourselves. And with then now we have actually a whole new blueprint to understand how we interact with people, how why we feel certain way, right? Why we can't sleep, right? And a simple solution that you probably wouldn't think of if you didn't like think about energy.
Mm, yeah. It's absolutely beautiful when you learn about these concepts, and especially when you see them in your life play out. What's
Yeah,
your favorite sci-fi
right.
movie?
I actually like many sci-fi movie, right? But I think that Doctor Strange series is great
Mm,
for me, because that is one that really helped me start to understand the multi-universe, multi, like the dimensional world. So that is one of my favorites. Um, when I was young, I really liked the one of the old Bruce Willis movie called The Fifth Element. Um, that was, I think, I don't know if it's like, I don't think you were born. I don't think you were born yet. It's a very old movie, but that was that. But I think it's a um, different flavor. Like the reason is like at that time I liked it because wow, it's the physical way of seeing how the future work in a physical form that excited me. But in the recent year, like my favorite is because I appreciate the deeper understanding of how the universe are being structured, and instead of how the Earth, like all this new technology on Earth. So I kind of switch like my favorite in that sense.
mhm. Yeah, it's definitely been a while since I watched the Doctor Strange. I remember I think the last time I watched Doctor Strange probably has to do with like Avengers Endgame.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah, yeah. And Avengers also like when the Thanos like yeah, is that Thanos who
yeah.
like kind of like make half the people, like half of the population disappear. Right. That movie is also very thought provoking actually,
Mhm.
because he thought he did the right thing.
But then,
But we don't actually we but that is the thought provoking part, like which align is kind of what we spoke about earlier. There is physical in the 3D world, right, with law and order, that's absolutely wrong. But in his mind, somehow he thought that is how I save the bigger problem that we cannot see. And how do we navigate that to reality is our constant, like is where we need to, like I think that's where we start to learn about everything. Right. So there's a lot deeper meaning and a deeper um, message behind it. Like I absolutely don't think, right, that like killing half of the population is right, right? But it's also at the same time, it's like the way that his worldview is also in his point of view is not wrong. So how do we navigate that? I don't have an answer, honestly, but it's very thought provoking.
Yeah, I can see like both sides. Yeah. Are there any like other Doctor Strange connections that you can see like connecting to this spiritual world, the spiritual understanding, like the metaverse, the multiverse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, metaverse and multiverse is the way now that we describe it is not. It's actually is how the universe work, right? I like how and why sci-fi exists. Sometimes you must first ask the question like how does the writer or the director and the writer even have that capacity to come up with this thing. It has to
Yeah.
come from somewhere, isn't it? And that somewhere is a must be a database somewhere that and I think a lot of the fiction writer that they naturally connected to this somewhere database, and then they woke up one day and say, oh, I thought of this wheel that must write it into a sci-fi, right? But if you think about it, it's not just coming from a person itself. Is this data, this image, it exists somewhere, some form, and then it go into a person and translate it into a movie, which following that logic, which also makes sense, at least in my mind. It makes sense that then that existence must exist somewhere and it just find a way to share with us where most of us cannot see, right? And then so I actually do think sci-fi is, we call it sci-fi, I call it, it's just a reality that we haven't experienced.
Mm.
And we can, throughout time, right, we can see how a lot of the sci-fi eventually become reality. Some are faster, some are slower, right? And because depending on the writer, how much drama that they put in, right, and how much they twist the original downloads that or images that they receive. So I like, so multiverse is very real, and the way that we describe it is just that it's like all the dimensions, all the reality is happening all the time, everything, every time. Like, and us, we are doing this podcast, for example, because both of us are tuned into these particular channels of life, right?
Mm.
And but there might be another 8 billion channels that is happening at the same time, that we are not aware of, right? Because we haven't tuned into it, and it's all happened at the same time. And that's also like is we when we start to expand our mind, I think that's very important. That start, I would, one thing if I recommend is that at least start to not choosing one truth and one dimension as our absolute experience, and try to accept there are multiple reality, there is multiple truth, there is not a singular, our life is not a singular line, but it's multiple lines, multiple dimensions, and all can happen at the same time. And it's not a or, right? A lot of the time is like people ask, I don't understand spiritual, like I don't understand why, like if who is like a, if there is karma, right? Let's just say, right? If there is karma, how is it possible, right? There is a no karma, right? There is like, and because there is a school of thought, right, that would say our whole life, right, is karma, cause and effect. And then there is a new school of thought saying that, but there is no karma once you go beyond certain spirit, right? And then we get very confused, right? And as we going through this spiritual journey and this awakening journey, right? But my advice is that no, it's not a or, but it's a and. We have karma and we have no karma. depending on our point of view, because we have multiple reality, because there is a form that we are in a what we are experiencing as a physical avatar with cause and effect, and there is a non-physical reality once we go beyond our avatar, right? Go back to our original source where karma does not exist, right? So that is just a flavor of what I'm talking about. Therefore, so both are accurate, both can be the truth, and it's not a pick one or the other. And then when our mind start to be able to work on this complex world where everything is an end, everything like your truth is right, my truth is right, everyone's truth is right, that also allow us to create a lot more compassion, kindness, and forgiveness, right? Because there is no more that I must be the one that who is right and you do me wrong. Right? We just start to accept and feel everyone have their own reality. It's like that's 8 billion channels happening at the same time, slightly different, right? But somewhat the same. So make us very confused. Are we the same or are we different?
Yeah. That reminds me of the movie Matrix. Like, have you watched the series, like The Matrix?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And every time you watch, you learn something new.
Hmm. Yeah. I think for the
Yeah,
longest time, like, we've been a lot of people, they're trying to escape the matrix. I especially know a lot of like my like entrepreneur friends. They're all trying to build their own startups, or they're trying to drop out of school because they want to escape the matrix. And I think during one point I was also like having that mindset where escaping the matrix means like financial freedom, time freedom, and things like that. But then once we access this spiritual body of work, and what I've realized is it's not really about escaping the matrix, but it's being aware of the matrix. And I think the matrix is a symbol for conditioning, for like the programming in our
yes,
lives. And then after we are aware of it, then we start living more aligned to the higher self, and also accepting and embracing the matrix. It's like integrating both together.
yes, yes. That's beautifully said, Bosco. It is like and when and a lot of the like people who start their spiritual journey, right, or entrepreneur journey, like the escaping is the we call it the spiritual bypassing. In a way, we try to like, oh, now I know all this. I want to like get out of it. Like I smoke, like I do psychedelic, like it's escaping, right? I and everything that I shouldn't. I want to bypass this emotional trauma. I want to bypass it, right? And and hoping that I just want to become. I want to go back home. Right? Like a lot of people come in as a star being. That they might come from a different planet, and then it's like I don't want to be on Earth. I want to go back home. The, that's not the point. And you really hit, like really getting the essence of the matrix is that what all of us choose to come here, right? Because it is our lesson to embrace, right, and evolve from the school of earth, right? So embracing it, and once we understand, once we remember, then make the best out of this matrix, like, and from this forgetness, from this remembering process, right, and create and become the creator, right, of ourselves, the creator in this matrix, uh, is what we do in this lifetime, in this body. And it's not about longing to go back to somewhere, go outside of it. So beautifully said, and I really like. I'm so glad that you can grasp that essence so quickly. So very awesome.
Yeah, no, it's just amazing how life is crazy. Like, if I think back to, you'll see like 6 months ago, it's crazy how much things have changed, like understanding and everything, especially when I started like meditating. think only like it's been like a year. I think before that I was already meditating, but it was very inconsistent. Like especially when you get
Mhm.
started, you're like, oh, what is this? Right? Like you don't really believe it. But then once you
Yeah,
start committing to it as a habit for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks in, you start to really see the changes. So it's really about
yeah,
doing it yourself.
yeah. And that is a living example every time. Like, and everyone that asks me about like how do I become better, like how do I do like this, how do I do X, I always go back to meditation. And humans sometimes think that uh they don't take the easy route. They don't think like it has to be, and I don't know. I think it's also conditioning. There must be some very complicated framework and formula that practice and doing right in order to get to certain things. And then I was like, no, just meditate. Not even has to be long. 5 minutes to start. Like as long as you can be consistent, and then your wisdom and your like the lotus from within will start to browse, and then from that you will find your path, and the right teacher will come to you. The right modality will come to you to support you through that awakening to that remembering process, and that's it. There is no complicated framework that people like to commercialize it and charge a lot of money, right? Yeah, it's like but like sometimes like the simplest is the easiest, right? There is tool once we start like the journey of meditation. There are like different tools that can help us to remember our wisdom, and that is important. But there is not something very complicated. So yes, meditation is start small, start very
Yeah.
small.
And also tying everything back to the concept of forgiveness, which we explore really deeply, in which I really appreciated all your responses, Ryan. What we have to do is to first take small steps, right? So every single day, bit by bit, we start doing these exercises like Ho'oponopono, and then we start being more aware of where we have to forgive. And then afterwards, after we ground ourselves in reality, then we can start to understand that it really is part of the matrix, right? Part of the entire curriculum, as you said, Ryan, like multiple times, where we have to face these as challenges and eventually learn from them in our lives. And
Yeah,
in one area of your book, you also wrote something super interesting, which I noted down, which is after doing all this, forgiveness may ultimately be unnecessary, but it also remains an essential until it becomes so. Like, could you expand more on that? What it means? Is it more than just acceptance?
yeah, yeah. That is actually my. If I have to pick one sentence out of the entire book, that is my favorite sentence.
Damn.
Because
Got it.
it's just that I feel that is something that we don't talk enough about, um, and why forgiveness become unnecessary is because once we expand like through all the exercise that we just talked about, and what happened, it would become that we come to a acceptance mode where everything good, bad, and ugly, right, happen to us for us for a good reason, right? Even the worst, the most painful experience, it happened for a reason. Then at that point, there's nothing to forgive because nothing is actually hurting us because we fully accept that all pain right, is a curriculum, right? Is a our we signed up as a soul. We signed up for this curriculum, right? And there's nothing to forgive. And even like to like so I sometimes I share with people I live in Hong Kong, and a few weeks or a month ago, I said already a month or a few weeks ago, there was this fire, right? Huge fire, I think one of the deadliest fire happened. It's a lot of sadness, like, and a lot of people started pointing fingers on what went wrong, which is important, right? Because that's part of the improvement of processing and laws like that can support disaster from happening. But at the same time, I must share that people who the soul who passed on, that they are also, and even the soul that survived, but in that incident, uh, in this tragedy, they are not. Um, they themselves, I call them the advanced soul. Yeah, the advanced student coming in, like that to have the gut to say, I'm gonna go through this tragedy for people. Because why? Right, when they go through this tragedy, one, right, their soul also, sometimes it might be their soul is to say, I go through this tragedy is for other people to learn something, right, for us to awaken, right, and this shock of emotion actually awaken a lot of us, including myself. There's like a lot of emotion comes up, and then through this emotion, if I say, okay, what is it, like, what am I feeling, like, how can I learn, like, through my emotion, right? So I every day, I give gratitude, like, back to this advanced, like, brave soul that chose to, you know what happened to them, right, and how did they help us. So when we actually be able to see that everything is happened for a reason, including the worst things that happen, and also honor, like, people that gone through that, they are advanced soul being, that, or even bodhisattva, as angels and guardians, that they sacrifice their life, to show the world, to show us something, like, and how we can learn from this. And then from that point of view, there's no more forgiveness, because everything we deeply understand, appreciate, right, the situation, and be humble, to learn from that situation, and it's not just a random event that someone did something bad or wrong, right? But that's part of, like, um, uh, a a learning, like, to forgive everything until there is nothing to forgive. Uh, but most of us, like, including myself, I think it's not easy to get there. So until then, that's why until then, we use forgiveness as a tool, and we use Oponopono, right, and other tool to help us to get there until that point that is unnecessary.
Mhm. Another interesting, I guess, like approach is also detachment from the forgiveness, or detachment from the event, to be more specific. I think I was studying Zen past couple of days, and then there was a story where a student of like a Zen master, they asked the Zen teacher why he wasn't um why he was upset that his mother recently passed away. Like he was like sobbing and things like that, because what a lot of us assume is that, like, if we're going to be in high level of frequency, then we might have just no emotions, right? In general, we're going to accept everything. But then part of the acceptance is being fully immersed in the emotion, like fully experiencing the
Hmm.
emotion during the moment, and then afterwards detaching from it. So what the Zen master told the student was, after I was sobbing because of my mother's death, then the next couple of days I just forget about it because that's the past, and then moving on from it. And to a certain extent, it's like
Yes.
that might also be spiritual bypassing if there are unconscious effects that happens back to you. But then with events, I think just like mother's death, or if it's how can we say this? If it's events that are not really conditioning us, I guess events that we just have
Yeah.
to accept that just naturally flows in life, right? You can't really control it. I guess like uncontrollable factors, then you just
Yeah.
have to learn to like let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is some people attach to the sadness, right? To the grief, and feeling that the grief, if I don't grieve, I am a bad person, right? And I think that is where some people get into depressions, or guilt, right? But you said it beautifully, is that we let the emotion comes. We are human. This is what we do. Like that's part of the matrix, right? Like we said, emotion exists, and we fully honor the emotion and fully appreciate the sadness, right? Because as parents, passing is the hardest things, right? Like it's like our loved one uh, is leaving us, right? That loss, right? Even though the most um, high level Zen master, monk, lama, right? We still have emotion because that we are human, and we are a compassionate one, right? Like and as a compassionate human being, we have emotion. We can tears, we can cry, we can be sad, but we don't attach to that emotion for long. We learn to feel it all. We nurture our emotion, and then once we nurture, we take care of our emotion, and then that will be able to transmute the emotions. And that's what a like sandmaster, right? And that's what we can do. Like it's not only sandmaster, but that's kind of the process, the tool to go through those steps to transmute whatever and emotion comes in. And so it's a very misunderstanding if we say that, oh, if we are zen, there's no emotion, there's no anger. No, no. We feel everything. We feel every anger, every anxiety. We take care of it, right? But we and is if we don't take care of it, that is the bypass that we putting it under the rug and ignore it, and then we just continue to do our own things, and that is a dangerous path. And that's what, like a lot in the corporate world, it called emotional intelligence. And I have a I always like I would say that emotional intelligence in the corporate setting, right, or in the social setting, is a emotional suppression, so that when we suppress our emotions so that we can get things done, that is a productivity tool, not a um, not a self-development, self-mastery tool. A self-mastery tool is to, once we take those suppressed emotions when we get home, we bring it back up, we nurture it, we release it, and then we transmute it, right? And that I call the heart intelligence, which I think I mentioned it before, right? So we follow our heart and go through the steps, um, and go through those framework that I shared before, the ARAE framework, to transmute them as well. So we transmute our values, we transmute our emotions, we and that is the true, in kind of like uh, intelligence. So yeah, or not intelligent, like that become wisdom. You transmute the intelligent or the emotion that it transmute into wisdom.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this podcast up, I think we covered a lot of theory and a lot of concepts. And I just want to lift the spirit up, lift the spirit up of this podcast a bit more. Like Ryan, like what will be like the vision here? Like if let's just say we start embodying all of these forgiveness principles and we actually start to live from our higher self, live truthfully. Like what's the vision?
Yeah, and it's very possible. Like my vision that why I do what I do today, right, is that if we everyone can forgive and everyone can meditate, just even like 5-10 minutes a day, what happened to the everyone around you naturally will, right, feel that energy where we first of all ourselves does not react with ourselves, reduce our trigger, right, and from that, then everyone around you, right, because we have this positive energy field, then everyone around you just like do it math, right, 5 people around you also feel what you feel, and you can also influence another 5 people, right, that can do the same thing, meditate 5 minutes a day, remove yourself from your thought so that you can you can have space to respond, right, and we start to forgive, right, because everything is for us, that we see the world slightly different, right, and that 5 person same thing share with another 5 person. You can imagine if all of us can actually embody what we just talked about today. It doesn't take a long time. It doesn't take a lot of like a long time for us to actually create a much peaceful world that is less like there's so much going on in the world right now, right? Like the conflicts and everything. We can actually, like, people like turn on the news, get angry, and when as soon as you get angry, you brought that ripple effect, right? It go out, and then more anger, and then you talk to like other person, and then you talk about this like what you saw on social media, and then the other 5 person is also angry, and then all of a sudden it creates something that is cannot be safe, right? It like, end up like war happen and everything, right? But we can do our part today to say, I am a creator of peace. I am a creator of a kinder world. Then I will commit to do my meditation and my forgiveness. And because I know my energy matters, it will have a ripple effect on everything else. And then I think we can all become empowered and take back control of the reality, knowing that everyone just give to 5 people, 5 people give to 5 people. You can put it in Excel quickly how many people you can reach. Right. So this is my really, I think that is not hard to do if all of us are collectively are willing to take that step.
Yeah. And this ultimately will build like what we all know about the heaven, right? What we all know as heaven, as the kingdom, as the Garden of Eden, as they say in Judaism, and I think it was the Devaloka for the Buddhism,
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
the
and the
multiple
pure
heaven.
land, right? Yeah, yeah, and the heaven is on earth, right? It's just a matter of us to decide when do we start that. And once we decide to do that, it is a ripple effect that can go very fast. So I
Yeah.
encourage everyone to start this process, and I committed myself to uh, do this for the rest of my life, right? Because I feel that that is actually very, very doable. I can see it. It's very doable because, like I say, the method is not complicated. We just need to take that first step and believe that. And now that we
Yeah.
understand, when we only see it as a physical world, it's very hard to see that it's possible. When we see it as beyond physical, that understand how energy work, then all of a sudden it becomes very possible because we are all interconnected at an energy level. But it's hard to visualize that we are interconnected in a physical level.
Mhm. Fantastic. You know, Ryan, whenever I do
Yeah,
these podcasts with you, and this is our fourth episode, right? I always just feel this sense of peace. You know, it's just sense of inner peace, and also like I could feel my stomach being like warm and being filled. Do you also get like similar feelings?
yeah, and every time I feel a lot more like the reality is creating right through our collaborations, and I think that is like I have never feel this way before actually, but this time, and I really appreciate spending your time and really have this vision of awakened teens, right, to help people out there to bring this to the world, that we can all do this together, in a actually is in a very non-violence and very peaceful way, that both awaken ourselves and awaken everything around us. And that is like I want to read like this like, and I myself actually like Bosco, and right, I go around the world and study different like uh, philosophy, and to try to synthesize, to make it very very simple, for people to understand and make it very practical into our daily life, so that like it is not hard to do. It might take just a little bit to rewire our worldview, right? That's the part that might take a little bit of time. But once we rewire our worldview, the action to create this new reality, that this kind peace peaceful reality is actually almost, I can see it. I can see the end of this. And thank you for all your questions, and you create this platform to bring this together as well.
Yeah, thank you for all of the stories and all of the wisdoms as well. It's always nice
Yeah,
to have a conversation with someone with a lot more life experience as well.
yeah, and like, but it's just life experience or like a lot of mistakes, right? And I keep reminding people that one is like, don't take everything that I said, and just do, but really experience it yourself, right? Become your own guru, by embodying this information into your wisdom.
Awesome. We'll wrap the podcast here. To everyone who's still listening, just take it easy, stay true to yourself, and we're always rooting for you and supporting you from afar. Until the next one, catch you guys soon.